Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and he's interviewing Nick Wright. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to say at the top of this clip. Not positive the exact topics that they're going to necessarily talk about. So let's just jump right into it and go from there.
Co-host First Things First. What did you make of I kind of agree with most of it. I still don't think Aaron Rodgers at 40 with that O-line. I hope he gets through the season. I would push back big on that. Other than that, I thought most of it I kind of agree with.
So you and I agree on a lot of this at the top. First of all, when your producers told me, they're like, hey, before you come on, Nick, Colin's going to go through all 32 teams' win totals. I was like, so I'm going to be on like 145. So great job by you in motoring through that. I would have lost a lot of money in you being able to do that in under 5 minutes. So that was impressive. I totally agree with you on the Jets piece of it. I think that the Jets last year were an old injured team and decided to fix that by adding the oldest tackle available, the second oldest tackle available, an injury-prone wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been excellent at this point. Will in 3 years. So I agree with your Jets skepticism there. Where we are going to disagree, and I hate to do it for the second straight.
By the way, let me just add that I'm going to plant my flag and say that the Jets, as long as they stay healthy, will be absolutely competitive, will make the playoffs, and potentially even win a playoff game or two, depending on where the seeding lies. So this idea that the Jets are just going to be terrible, or that Aaron Rodgers is just terrible now and he's old and this or that, I completely reject.
Great week is your love affair with the Vikings is baffling. You're right, Colin. They have a great left tackle. They have a sharp coach. They might have the best receiver. In fact, they do have the best receiver in football. They are also in a brutal division with far and away the worst quarterback in that division, unless they're starting a rookie who they trade up for so they don't have to start Darnold. I think you're a little too low on the Bears. I just think everyone, and not necessarily you, but just America needs to remember, the Bears do not have the first pick of the draft. The Panthers do. The Bears get it from them. The Bears were not the worst team in football. They won 7 games. So I think Caleb coming in and being a 3-win improvement is totally reasonable. So I could see the Bears being a 10-win team. I also agree with you that I think they are a little too short on the Rams. Yeah. I think the Rams are there is a world that exists that the Rams have a better final possession against Detroit in round 1 of the playoffs, and the Rams play in the Super Bowl. Like, I truly believe that. I think that Rams team was better than we thought last year, and next year, even without Donald, should be good. But at the top of the divisions, I tend to agree with you.
So it's the J.J. McCarthy thing I said at the top of my show. It's starting to feel like Zach Wilson, where, you're like, oh, what a throw at the pro day. And, oh, Harbaugh likes him. And it's like, timeout. He had 22 touchdown passes in 15 games with great protection, playing with leads, the best coach. It feels very Alabama quarterback, where I'm not doubting he's a pro, but it was not an NFL experience. Always the best coach, always a lead, always a run game, always protection. I'm like, guys, they haven't played any games since the season ended. How did he go from mid-first to potentially the second pick? Do you buy that?
No, I totally agree with you. So here's where it's different than Zach Wilson, at least from my perspective. The Zach Wilson stuff I didn't understand, but I mostly stayed out of because I don't watch as much college football as you do, Colin. And if I was being honest with the audience, I didn't watch a lot of BYU. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not going to grind all 500 snaps. I didn't watch a ton of BYU. The scouts love him. I guess I'll trust him. I watched this guy every weekend because he was on the best team. At no point was I watching Michigan and like, oh, man, and they've got a top 5 pick at quarterback? Here's what I know. The game that Harbaugh's replacement had to coach against Penn State where he's like, I can't screw this up for Jim. I have to rely on what I know I can rely on. They let the kid throw the ball. They gave him the Jimmy G in the NFC Championship game treatment. They're like, throw the ball 8 times and don't screw it up, which to me was telling.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying he can't be a pro. There's never in my adult life watching college football been a quarterback that I watched more, that I was more confident on what their draft eval would be, which is a day 2 pick, compared to what it is now with no games taking place. I don't understand it. And I know some folks will be like, well, when Harbaugh had Andrew Luck, he ran the ball. Harbaugh let Luck throw the ball 30 times a game on that Stanford team.
Yeah.
JJ threw the ball 21 times a game. And I don't understand it, but it sure seems like if he gets past the top 3, that there is going to be a team, be it Minnesota or the Giants or the Broncos, that are dying to trade up to get him from Harbaugh at number 5 with that 5th pick the Chargers have. So I guess he's going to be a top 5 pick. I just don't understand it.
You know, I have to be careful lobbing up a wiffle ball for you to hit out of the stadium here. This is really in your wheelhouse, but
I just got to pause real fast and say it's impossible to hit a wiffle ball out of a stadium. Have you ever played wiffle ball before? The ball goes nowhere. That's the whole point of a wiffle ball.
Okay.
Sean McDermott had a quote at the NFL meeting saying,
yeah, it is.
It's very narrow-minded to say we haven't been successful. Since 1967 in the merger, Josh Allen has the highest winning percentage without a Super Bowl appearance, and this was clearly the year that Kansas City was vulnerable. And I know Sean McDermott can coach. I've always used the Chuck Knox comp. I knew he could coach. But there's 2 levels to coaching. The guy that comes in, he's organized and cleans up a mess. That's a good football coach. A great coach can do that and then have vision and the ability to elevate people. And I'm not anti-Sean McDermott. I think he's category 1. Andy Reid is category 2. McVay is category 2. So when you hurt, again, I am just lobbing you up a ball to hit. This is batting practice. But your take on McDermott, Allen, and the idea that it's narrow-minded to not say they're successful.
Yeah. My take is Bills fans, coaches, personnel, media, everybody, sycophants need to pick a lane. If the lane is, listen, Josh Allen's a good player, and we're a good team. And there are 25 teams that would love to trade places with us the last 5 years. So be it. You're right. But when I, for years, have said that's who you are, you're a good team with a good to really good quarterback, I'm called a hater.
Because you are a hater. Because saying that Josh Allen is just a good to great quarterback, he is not a good to great. Josh Allen is amazing. Josh Allen is a top-level quarterback. Elite talent. Start to finish, okay? He has had trash. He is with a trash organization with the Bills. He has a defensive head coach who really has no control over that organization, that locker room at this point. Okay? He has a revolving door in terms of, OCs. So get out of here. He doesn't have true weapons. He doesn't have Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Andy Reid. So get out of here with this nonsense. That's why you're called a hater, because what you're saying is just fundamentally wrong. And so I hate this take by Nick. I mean, it's just like, it's so infuriating. It really, really is, because he tries to just, paint the picture. He paints the picture in the way where the Bills and Josh Allen look the worst. Because he either wants to say, see, I told you they're not good enough, and this is just who they are. They're just like, yeah, they're a playoff team. They're okay. Or that, Josh Allen is this great quarterback, but he fails, and he's not good enough. That's not the reality. The reality is that if Patrick Mahomes was with the Buffalo Bills, he would have zero Super Bowls. Zero.
I'm called a denier. I'm afraid. No. It's 1A, 1B, Allen and Mahomes. The Bills and Chiefs, they're the Titans of the league. Okay, well, by that standard, you failed. By that standard, in your era, your rival is 3-0 against you in the playoffs. Your sub-rival, the Bengals, is 1-0 against you in the playoffs. By the standard of the great teams, you have absolutely underachieved. So either you're not that good, you're actually, let me rephrase it. You're not that great, and you have just achieved what you're supposed to, but I've been yelled at for years when I've said that, so it must be you actually are great, which means this has been a massive failure of the last 5 years. It can't be both. It can't be this was a success and we're awesome. That does not exist. And if you're Buffalo, here is the hard part. Colin, I said this to you a year ago, and then it happened again. Each year, they get further away. 2020 in the AFC title game. Okay, that's great. 2021, the 13 seconds game on the road in round 2. That's a little bit of a step back.
This take is also stupid because
round
football is not
2
linear.
blown out at home. All right, that's a big step back. 2023, fire the offensive coordinator. You're 6-6. You need a mad dash just to make the playoffs, only to lose another home playoff game. 3 years in a row, Mahomes or Burrow have beaten you or 4 years in a row, Mahomes or Burrow have beaten you in the playoffs. 2 years in a row, it's happened in your building. So what are you? Are you trying to be, the Milwaukee Bucks or the Denver Nuggets? By that standard, you failed. Or are you the Philadelphia 76ers? Look at the MVP caliber star I have. Look at the wonderful regular season accomplishments, and look at everyone else going further in the postseason. I, for a while, have said you might be the Sixers, but I'm just a hater who happens to be right about the Bills every single time. So that's all I'll say.
Okay, so I want to go to one NBA question. So we saw this in men's tennis, where Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, Novak Djokovic were all in their prime at about the same time, and men's tennis, along with Serena, was really captivating. And then Federer starts regressing. Rafa Nadal has injuries. Novak Djokovic, they all start regressing at a kind of the same time. And I don't think men's tennis for the next several years will feel quite as dynamic. It goes through cycles. Sure. In the NBA, the Suns with KD are 8th. LeBron's Lakers are 9th. Steph's Warriors are 10. And they have half the MVPs and final appearances in the NBA in the last 15 years. And it feels like men's tennis. There's a passing of the guard. And right now, I'm not sure who's next.
Who's going to take it? You don't know who's going to take the torch. It's a passing of the torch with, you hope Anthony Edwards continues to ascend. It's hard. It's hard for a player his size to be the best player in the league. There's a reason that's a very, very short list of guys under 6'6" or 6'6" and under who have ever even really been in that discussion. It's a lot of international players that nobody questions their basketball ability to be the face of an American sport. If you're not American, that's something that the American consumer seems somewhat uncomfortable or unfamiliar with, at least. And this, though, Colin, is where I would put some of this on the NBA, because I think some of the marketing and some of what they have prioritized has been short-sighted. So I will use, as I often do, your and my kind of professional relationship as an analogy. 7 years ago, 8 years ago at this point, my goodness, when I first got hired by Fox, and you and the bosses decided that when you took time off, I should get to fill in for you. Was I definitively the best person to do those shows? The answer is probably not. But the company was invested in me, and they were like, you know what? Even if this show might not be the best we could possibly do, it'll be good, and we will grow the person. More people will know him. He will get experience, all of these things. As opposed to what is the very best thing for this show this day. So here's why I mentioned that. The NBA keeps just squeezing.
It's so funny because when he's filled in Colin recently, it's the worst show ever. He does his opening and take. His voice is so shrill. Like, you can hear this rant right now. it works with Colin just talking for a long period of time because he's got like a smooth, like buttery voice, honestly. But when he does it, it's like nails on the chalkboard. I mean, whether you find Nick Wright entertaining or not, listening to him to just like talking for like a 10-minute opening monologue, kind of like, again, what Colin does not work with Nick. And I like how he tries to just throw in now, the company was invested in me. Like, okay, dude, like, settle down here, okay? Like, God, he's becoming so pretentious, and it's becoming brutal, quite honestly. Like, I find Nick entertaining, and I love the show, First Things First and stuff like that, the back and forth, but like, Nick is becoming a figure that is difficult to, listen to for extended periods of time. I mean, like, because he's so biased, he's so one-sided. He thinks, and his brand has become like, I'm always right and you're always wrong, which a lot of people have publicly, but it's done in a way of like, you know it, you know me, right? I've been right about the Bills every single year. Like, he just loves that attention, and it's just, I find myself hating it, quite honestly. I really do. I find myself pretty averse to it. And it's just, I don't even necessarily find it entertaining, but the thing that I want to comment about, the basketball players and how they don't know who to pass the torch to. The problem is that this is what the NBA does, and I made this point before, is that they just love to worship players like LeBron James, and it's just never ending. You can't watch another basketball game with LeBron James in it without the commentators just worshiping him for the 2+ hour broadcast, just again and again and again and again. That's like all the, isn't he unbelievable? Isn't he unbelievable? Isn't he unbelievable? Even if he's not doing unbelievable things. They talk about the Lakers and LeBron when they're not doing anything, they're not competitive, and they just talk about them again and again and again. And it's like, talk about the players and the teams that are truly relevant right now, the teams and the players that are actually balling out. And the best example of this is, I watch Formula One racing, and there's this guy, Lewis Hamilton, for those of you who don't know, is an unbelievable driver, 7-time world champion and all that, but within the last couple of years, he hasn't been competitive, and he had been the face of Formula One for years, and he hasn't been competitive, and they don't talk about him again and again and again and again. Sure, they mention him, obviously, and at certain points in the race, when it's relevant, they do. But they don't just focus on Lewis Hamilton again and again and again. They talk about who's relevant, who's at the top 3 right now. They've moved on to other drivers and other cars. And it makes sense. And now you're more familiar, more comfortable, and you're not just being stuck in the past. But they just want us to be living in the past with LeBron James, KD, and Steph Curry. And I love all those players. And I want to milk them as much as you can get, because one day they are going to retire. And so you want to take advantage of it, while they're still playing. But the truth is right now, there's other teams and other players that are infinitely more exciting to watch. I don't care about LeBron James trying to limp into the playoffs with the Lakers. Talk to me about OKC, about the Denver Nuggets, about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Don't talk to me about the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry, who might not even make the playoffs. It's not, what are they doing right now? It's not that interesting. Talk to me about the Boston Celtics. Break down, how are they blowing teams out at a historical rate? So it's just, this is the mistake that the NBA makes, and this is the mistake that media as a whole makes, okay? They think just because we like something or even love something that we want it all the time, nonstop, every single day. I love Patrick Mahomes. I love Andy Reid. I do not need to see them on 12 different commercials every freaking day. Every single football game I watch, I do not need to see Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in a commercial. It's just insane. It's asinine to think that anyone wants that anyone wants to see the same thing. You love chocolate cake, chocolate ice cream, whatever, steak, whatever. Can you eat that every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? You can't. You'd hate it. You'd literally start to throw it all up because you just can't do it. So it's it is a big mistake that professional sports and the media as a whole does. They're like, oh, the people love this. Let's just keep showing it to them again and again and again and again and again. It doesn't work like that. And that's what the NBA is doing. And the truth is, it fosters hate. It fosters like them being people like saying like, I hate LeBron, because it's obnoxious to watch a game. You're watching the Lakers versus, Minnesota, for instance, and they're just talking about, isn't what LeBron's doing amazing? Can you believe he's doing this at 39 years of age? We have never seen anything like this. Yes, I know that. I've been watching basketball for a long time, and anyone else who's watching this broadcast right now has probably a pretty good idea who LeBron James is. You don't need to spoon feed it to us every 5 seconds how great LeBron James is. We know. Now shut up. Talk about the game. Talk about the other players on the court. My God, that is the mistake that they make. And they do this in football too. They do this with Patrick Mahomes when he's playing, or other players, not just Patrick Mahomes. It's just always, isn't this guy unbelievable? Isn't this guy unbelievable? Isn't this guy unbelievable? Yes, I know. I can see with my eyes how great this player is. You're not adding anything right now. In fact, you're just being annoying. So I really think that is a big problem that sports face, and especially the NBA, especially, without a doubt. The broadcasts over the years, watching the games, have become less enjoyable. That's just the reality. And I find myself watching less basketball, and I love basketball. Absolutely love basketball. Love, 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 love. And listening to the broadcast now, I find them pretty brutal. Pretty brutal, especially after they got rid of my favorite trio of, Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, because at least they had like the courage to like call out the NBA, call out plays, call out players, call out refs. That felt more enjoyable. It felt because it was more real. It was more authentic. It felt like you were actually watching it with your boys. But instead, they wanted to do all the diversity. They wanted Doris. They wanted people that are not even actually in the NBA or ever played in the NBA or coached in the NBA. And Adam Silver didn't want commentators that were willing to actually point out flaws. They just wanted glowing, unconditional love and support. And now you have an inferior product. And so, the NBA has made their bed, and now they have to lie with the just not good ratings. Those are just my thoughts. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff in this one. That's why these interviews are a little bit harder, because they just talk about so many different topics. But whether you agree with me or disagree with me on any of the things that we talked about, please let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree or disagree, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please, again, do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I would really want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you made it this far, that means you like this video. That means you like this channel. You're part of it. So please just give it a thumbs up. It really does help with the visibility and the algorithm, and I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.